Remember when dinner meant Kraft Dinner with cut-up hot dogs and dessert was Jell-O with fruit cocktail suspended inside? When your mom would serve liver and onions on Thursday nights and you'd sit there until you cleaned your plate, no matter how long it took? If you grew up in Canada in the 60s and 70s, you ate meals that today's kids wouldn't recognize. These weren't fancy, they weren't Instagram-worthy, but they were ours. Hit that subscribe button now, because number one on this list is going to transport you straight back to your childhood kitchen. And you won't believe we actually ate this stuff. Starting at 20, Kraft Dinner with sliced hot dogs was the weeknight savior when your mom didn't feel like cooking a full meal. You'd watch her boil the macaroni, drain it, add that orange powder and margarine, then slice up a couple of hot dogs and stir them in. It wasn't gourmet, but it was hot, filling, and every Canadian kid ate it at least once a week. The hot dogs would get slightly rubbery from the heat, and the whole thing would turn that distinctive orange color that somehow tasted like home. At 19, Campbell's tomato soup from the can with a grilled cheese sandwich was the ultimate comfort lunch, especially on snow days. Your mom would heat the soup with milk, not water, making it creamy and rich. The grilled cheese would be made with white bread butter and processed cheese slices, fried in a pan until golden and crispy. You'd dip the sandwich into the soup, and that combination of hot, tangy tomato and melted cheese was perfection. Number 18, frozen fish sticks baked in the oven until the coating was crispy, served with tartar sauce and frozen peas. These weren't real fish, they were breaded mystery rectangles that came in a box, but you loved them anyway. Your mom would arrange them on a baking sheet, pop them in the oven, and 20 minutes later, dinner was ready. The tartar sauce came from a jar, and you'd dip each fish stick until it was drowning in the stuff. At 17, shepherd's pie made with leftover roast beef or ground beef, topped with instant mashed potatoes and baked until the top was golden. This was Monday night dinner, using Sunday's leftovers stretched with gravy, frozen mixed vegetables, and those instant mashed potatoes that came from a box. Your mom would spread the potatoes on top with a fork, creating peaks that would brown in the oven. Served with canned corn on the side, it was hearty, filling, and tasted better than it sounds. Number 16, canned pork and beans heated on the stove with sliced hot dogs stirred in, served on white toast. This was cheap, fast, and surprisingly satisfying. The beans would be sweet and tomatoey, the hot dogs would plump up in the heat, and you'd pile it all onto buttered toast that would get soggy from the sauce. Your dad would douse his in ketchup, and you'd eat it with a fork, trying to keep the beans from sliding off the bread. At 15, tuna noodle casserole made with canned tuna, egg noodles, cream of mushroom soup, and crushed potato chips on top. Your mom would mix everything in a casserole dish, top it with crushed chips for crunch, and bake it until it was bubbling. The tuna would be flaky, the noodles would be soft, and the cream of mushroom soup would bind it all together into a creamy, salty mess that you'd eat seconds of without being asked. Number 14, pan-fried liver with onions, mashed potatoes, and canned peas. The meal every kid dreaded but had to eat anyway. Your mom would fry the liver in butter until it was brown outside and still pink inside, pile fried onions on top, and serve it with a stern look that said, "You're eating this." The liver was metallic and chewy, the onions were the only good part, and you'd wash it down with milk, trying not to gag. But you ate it because that's what kids did in the 60s and 70s. At 13, Spam sliced thin and fried until the edges crisped, served on white bread with mustard and a slice of processed cheese. Spam came in a tin with a key you'd wind to open it, and it would slide out in a perfect loaf shape. Your mom would slice it, fry it until it was crispy, and make sandwiches that you'd eat for lunch with a glass of Freshie. The Spam was salty, fatty, and weirdly delicious, even though you knew it was basically mystery meat. Number 12, lime or orange Jell-O, molded in a bundt pan with canned fruit cocktail and mini marshmallows suspended inside, served on lettuce leaves. This was a staple at church suppers and family gatherings. Your mom would make it the night before, letting it set in the fridge, then unmold it onto a plate with iceberg lettuce underneath. The Jell-O would wobble, the fruit would be visible through the translucent gelatin, and you'd eat it with a fork, trying to get a bit of everything in each bite. At 11, thick sliced bologna with processed cheese on white bread, spread with margarine and packed in your lunch pail with a thermos of milk. The bologna would be the cheap kind from the deli counter, sliced thick and folded to fit the bread. The cheese would be individually wrapped slices that you'd peel the plastic off. By lunchtime, the sandwich would be slightly warm, and the bread would be soft, but you'd eat it anyway, because that's what you had. Number 10, chicken a la king from a can, heated and served over toast points with frozen peas on the side. This was fancy dinner in the 60s and 70s. Your mom would open the can, heat the creamy chicken mixture, and serve it over triangles of toast. The sauce was thick and white, the chicken was in small chunks, and there were bits of pimento that you'd pick out if you didn't like them. It tasted like cream of chicken soup with chunks, and you'd soak up every bit with the toast. At 9, pan-fried pork chops with canned applesauce, instant mashed potatoes, and canned green beans. The pork chops would be thin, cooked until they were dry and tough, but the applesauce made them edible. You'd cut a piece of pork, dip it in applesauce, and the sweet-savory combination would make the dry meat tolerable. The mashed potatoes were instant, made with milk and margarine, and the green beans were mushy from the can, but it was a complete meal. Number 8, canned salmon mixed with breadcrumbs and egg, formed into patties and fried until golden, served with ketchup. Your mom would open a tin of salmon, bones and all, mash it with breadcrumbs and egg, and fry the patties in butter. The bones were soft enough to eat, adding calcium, and the patties would be crispy outside and soft inside. You'd drown them in ketchup to mask the fishy taste, and they were actually pretty good once you got past the idea of eating canned fish. At 7, canned creamed corn, heated and served over buttered toast, sometimes with bacon bits if you were lucky. This was quick dinner when your mom was tired. She'd heat the creamed corn, butter some toast, and pour the corn over top. The toast would get soggy, the corn was sweet and thick, and you'd eat it with a fork, trying to keep it from sliding off. It was simple, cheap, and surprisingly filling. Number 6, ground pork formed around a stick, breaded and fried to look like a chicken drumstick, served with mashed potatoes and gravy. These were cafeteria favorites and occasional home dinners. The meat would be seasoned, formed around a wooden stick, breaded, and fried until crispy. They weren't chicken, but they were fun to eat, holding them by the stick and biting the meat off. Your mom would make gravy from a packet, and you'd dip the mock chicken legs in it, pretending you were eating something fancy. At 5, boiled dinner was a one-pot meal of corned beef, cabbage, potatoes, carrots, and turnips, all boiled together until everything was soft. Your mom would put everything in a big pot, add water, and let it simmer for hours. The house would smell like cabbage, which wasn't great, but the meal was hearty and filling. The corned beef would be salty and tender, the vegetables would be mushy, and you'd eat it with mustard on the side. It was maritime cooking at its simplest, and every Canadian kid ate it at least once. Number 4, Kraft Dinner with canned peas stirred in, your mom's attempt to add vegetables to an otherwise nutritionally empty meal. You'd watch her make regular KD, then open a can of peas, drain them, and stir them in. The peas would be mushy and slightly sweet, mixing with the orange cheese sauce in a way that was oddly satisfying. You'd eat it without complaint because it was still Kraft Dinner, and Kraft Dinner was always good. At 3, Spam sliced thick and fried, topped with canned pineapple rings and a maraschino cherry in the center, served with rice. This was Hawaiian-inspired cooking, 1960s Canadian style. Your mom would fry the Spam, top each slice with a pineapple ring, stick a cherry in the hole, and serve it over white rice. The combination of salty Spam and sweet pineapple was surprisingly good, and the presentation made it feel special, even though it was just canned meat and canned fruit. Coming in at number 2, cold sliced beef tongue on rye bread with mustard, packed in your lunch or served at Sunday supper. Your mom would buy tongue from the butcher, boil it until tender, Peel off the outer layer and slice it thin. The texture was smooth and the flavor was mild, but knowing you were eating tongue made it weird. You'd eat it anyway because that's what was in your sandwich, and you'd try not to think about it too much. And here we are at number 1, Aspic Salad, savory Jell-O made with tomato juice or beef broth, with vegetables, hard-boiled eggs, or even shrimp suspended inside. This was the pinnacle of 1960s Canadian cuisine, served at every church supper, wedding reception, and holiday dinner. Your mom would make it in a mold, let it set overnight, then unmold it onto a platter with lettuce underneath. The aspic would be jiggly and translucent, the vegetables would be visible inside, and it would taste like cold, gelatinous soup. You'd take a slice to be polite, push it around your plate, and maybe take one bite before hiding it under your napkin. Aspic salad was the meal that defined an era, and thank God that era is over. There you have it, 20 forgotten Canadian meals that defined childhood in the 60s and 70s. These weren't gourmet, they weren't healthy, but they were ours, and they're burned into our memories forever. Which one hits your nostalgia button hardest? Drop your memories in the comments below. And if this trip through Canadian food history triggered some nostalgia, hit that like button and subscribe, because next week we're covering the snacks and treats that filled our lunch pails. Thanks for watching, and remember, we survived on this food and somehow we turned out just fine.